Thank you for coming out to our January recess board meeting. A little chilly out there this morning, but the sun's shining, so that helps. We're getting ready to start into our agenda, but before we start, I'm going to ask Supervisor Training. If you don't mind, would you lead us in a word of prayer?
Sure. Oh God, we come this morning to say thank you. Thank you, Lord, for this day that you have made, and we're going to rejoice and be glad in it. We come, Father, asking you for guidance and direction, oh Father, as we contemplate the business of this county. We pray that everything that will be done will be pleasing in your sight, and we just come just thanking you, Lord, for just everything, the good and the not so good, because we know it takes all that to make life what it is. We ask that you forgive us of our sins, oh Father. We pray, Father, that once we complete the business here, that we go out and continue to serve. And Father, we just asking that your blessings on the government on all levels, local, state, national, Father, all people that are in position to lead and to serve, help them to realize that they need to be mindful of what they do, because what we've done to the least of our brethren, we've done it also unto you. So we pray all these blessings in Jesus' name. We pray. Let every heart say amen. Amen.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we move to our citizens' comment period. This is the time that any citizen is able to come before the board and express an issue that you might have for up to 3 minutes. So we'll now open up with our citizens' comment period. Good morning, Mr. Turner.
Good morning. Good morning to President and Supervisor. ISIS and the white supremacists, they are doing all they can to start a war. But it's time to stand strong. Yeah. We don't need a war. Calculated. Martin been gone 5 years in the taxes for 5 years for a ton of state, $4,300. Now, I ain't good at math, but $4,300, and you can tell me that you can't fix the elevator. That's very cold. The Albert Jackson Road, the lady been bed. No result. Election time coming. If we don't do no better, we're going to have to think of something else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. County Administrator Carpenter, would you give us a little update on the elevator?
Motion for the announcement.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Trainer. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Yes, Supervisor, this board approved, we conducted an invitation for bid. We had 2 bids. This board approved Mid-South. I'm trying to remember the exact name, Mid-South. I think they're out of Birmingham. Total cost, if my recollection is correct, is about $65,000. Of course, that's an old elevator. They're renovating, bringing it up to modern standards. I'm very hesitant to say how long it'll take. It will certainly not be in the next few weeks. I mean, we probably looking at May, possibly June before that elevator's up. Now, that's the only elevator in the building, but I think that's what we're looking at. They got to order a lot of parts. They got to get a lot of things together. But that's my estimation on timeline.
Thank you for that update. And Mr. Turner, we certainly understand that, you know, that elevator is certainly a needed item here in the courthouse. And as you heard, our county administrator and our maintenance guys are doing all they can to try to get it back up and running.
Oh yeah, but I just don't want us to someone follow whatever they want to sue the county for something that we can fix. We got enough lawsuits. We don't need for something that we know to be a lawsuit that we can help. That's all I'm saying.
We certainly agree with that, and we certainly understand your concern. So thank you for coming. Would there be anyone else that would like to approach the board for 3 minutes? If not, we'll go ahead and close this portion of our agenda. Next on the item we've got a presentation from the, National Caucus Center on Black Aging, Ms. Linda Floyd. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Just handing this to you. They got sent them out for email. Okay, you already have packages,
Yeah.
great. Okay, well, I'll make this very brief. We've been in business for a very long time. It's a community service program that we would like to offer to you guys. Is to get our senior citizens out to back in the workforce. I do have a copy of the host agency manual. These positions are permanently assigned to a host agency, and I'm asking our Tippecanoe County Board of Supervisors to participate in a host agency program. You may reassign a participant or other position when it's in the best interest of the participant in the community. And this is just to create a job for anyone that's 65 older, that doesn't have a job, low income. And if you see a need in your area, here at the Board of Supervisors. And that's basically all I have, if you're interested.
Now, Ms. Floyd, I understand that you have federal grant funds that will pay the entire salary for these people.
Yes, it's a minimum wage salary, so in a sense, it's kind of free labor. We'll be paying for their salary to participate with you guys.
And would there be a limit to the number of hours? I'm trying to understand the left and right limits of this thing.
20 hours a week. Well, right now we're at 25 hours a week, and this is a 2-year program. And the goal is to get them back in the workforce. So if you do have a opening, possibly, and you've been training in the area, this would be someone that's been here for a while.
Now, would we have the opportunity to select these individuals, or would this be somebody that we would submit to you a requirement and you would send us someone? How does that work?
You will select the person that you want to participate.
Okay.
How many, positions can you fund?
Two per host agency. And right now in our Tippecanoe, I need at least 4.
So this, if this board decided we would host 2, and then maybe like the city of Starkville possibly would host 2.
Yes. That's it.
Yeah, well, I do understand that those individuals work out successfully. If they work out successfully, there is a possibility of moving them on into a position of employment.
Yes, that is the
I
goal.
guess that's the goal.
Yes, sir, that is the goal. And we assist them, well, I will be the job counselor, so if they have any assistance with resume, any type of supportive service to, have a job, to be on a job and be successful, I'm here to assist the participant and the host agency.
So I guess that you may have just addressed it, but the, individual that would be hired, they would work up under the supervision of that, wherever they're placed.
Yes. And I would check in with the host agency supervisor twice a month, just to see how they're going. And whatever job description you decide on him to do, if it's secretarial with running copies or whatever, you can't switch him over to do the landscaping. So it's just, and then you might just need a janitor. But you want to ask a janitor to do the secretarial work. So the job description will be up for you to decide for that participant.
Now, I'm sorry.
What's the life of the grant?
2 years for that participant, unless there's,
Now, if the term of the employment, and I'm thinking some examples that come to my mind is like, an example might be our tax office gets really busy and they hire some temporary employees, right? Would the term of employment have to be across the entire 2 years, or would we be able to shape it in such a way that it may be a temporary, a 6-month deal during a surge period, or how does that work?
I understand what you're asking, and I think that will fall under if we need to transfer that person to another just say tax
So
assessor.
you'd like to see them employed for the entire term of the grant?
Yes, 2 years, but if
Okay.
it doesn't work out, that's something we need to, discuss later.
And I'm gonna ask, like, does that mean, like, whatever department or whatever it is, like he was saying, the tax office was busy, well, even if they weren't busy, but it could be put in the thing where, like you said, they could file or run copies or, do other things until the busy season came.
Yes,
But
They'll be
it's
up
still
under
in
your
the same
supervision.
office
yes, ma'am.
or, the field system.
Yes, ma'am.
If it was a clerical position, could it go from one department to the next as they're busy if it covered 2 years forward?
Are you referring to like going from the tax assessor office to a chancery clerk
Not
office?
doing the same job,
Doing the
with a
same job.
different,
I would suggest, giving that person a title, I'm not sure you say deputy clerk for the courthouse, or some type of title that she would assist the tax assessory office, circuit clerk during the golden season, if you choose to. Pardon me?
Would just kind of broaden that job description to include each department with the same clerical skill.
And that would give that person an opportunity to grow as well. I just think happy supervisor, happy. Y'all have any more other questions?
I'd like to make a motion, we serve as host agency for the SCSEP program.
Second. The motion by Supervisor Brandon, second by Supervisor Williams, that we are to serve as a host agency for this program. Any discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Okay?
Mr. Gordon, you live in Louis?
I live in Louisville.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have Slaughter in Willingham.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
I appreciate the invitation to come back and speak with you about implementation for your comprehensive plan. I think everyone knows me. I'm Nathan Willingham, with Slaughter in Willingham, I'm principal planner with our firm. We recently completed the county's comprehensive plan update. I believe y'all adopted that back in October of last year, if memory serves. And so we're here today to talk a little bit about some of the implementation steps and a scope of work to move through the first phase of implementation. I've been in communication with Mr. Carpenter about what some of the county's needs are, and based on discussion with him, we put together a proposed scope of work that would accommodate some of the ordinances that the county may be interested in adopting, such as zoning regulation, an update to your subdivision regulations, septic ordinances, and a limited or phased-in building code, as well as assisting with building the planning capacity for the county, building up the staffing and planning capacity for the county, and providing some implementation and training assistance as these measures come online. Something that's very important, I think Wayne and I talked about this a good bit, and the supervisor is very interested in it, is ensuring that the county's work plan and capacity come along together in a way that anything that is adopted by the county is enforced to the good of county residents. Right? And make sure that anything that is created or crafted, adopted as a new rule, is a good fit for the county in the areas that it's growing and developing, that protects quality of life and the neighborhoods that are affected by any new regulations, but also that the county has the staffing and implementation capacity in order to make certain that enforcement takes place effectively and fairly. Because at the end of the day, the goal of the comprehensive plan and the goal of any ordinance or regulation the county might adopt is to improve quality of life, protect property values, and protect health, safety, and welfare, and to grow the county in a positive direction while doing so fairly and legally above board with respect to how folks are treated. I did bring a presentation that is an overview of two very important ordinances the county is considering. zoning ordinance and update to the subdivision regulations. I'd like to go through that very briefly and then answer any questions that y'all might have about the services we're proposing, about the comprehensive plan, or about the process we might use going forward, if that's acceptable to you, Mr. President.
Absolutely.
I'm going to skip ahead. I think y'all know us well enough. The first 3 pages are just purely introductory information about us and our firm. We've got a bit of experience working with y'all at this point, so I think y'all know kind of who we are. Starting on page 6, and actually over on page 7, it talks about what a zoning ordinance is. I think supervisors, y'all are probably very well aware of what a zoning ordinance is, but essentially a zoning ordinance is a regulation that divides a county into districts or zones and allows you to regulate land use and the density of development in certain areas. Counties need a zoning ordinance if they're going to try to treat different neighborhoods differently. And the reason that you might try to treat different neighborhoods in your county differently is because neighborhoods develop at a different character. Some places are single family, some places are rural. Both those places really need to have protections in the long run so that the investments that people make in land and property are protected. And so that land can develop to its highest and best use. And so a zoning ordinance is a regulation or technique that allows a county to thoughtfully divide the county into districts or neighborhoods and apply different rules in different locations around your county. And the key part of that, I think, is that when you're considering a zoning ordinance, you have to be very conscientious and aware of the distinctions and the differences in what's on the ground today and how people live their life in their neighborhood and what is coming and how quickly it's coming in the future. And so a zoning ordinance allows you to treat areas that are growing more slowly, that have a more traditional rural quality of life, treat those areas differently than areas that are fast growing and have urbanization and commercialization taking place quickly. And you can look across Oktibbeha County and you can see examples of where places have a very high rural quality of life, and they have a very traditional set of values when it comes to land use and regulation. And those neighborhoods, or places as we call them, would be treated differently than fast-growing areas that are closer to your urban center, where you may have people wanting to develop more and more closely together, right? And so the differences in those kind of locations lead counties and governing bodies to need a set of tools that allows them to regulate differently based on their neighborhoods and the pace of growth and development and the intensity of growth and development. The purpose in both of those locations is to ensure that what people buy, build, and invest in, they put their life savings and they put their risk capital into businesses on the ground in Oktibbeha County. It's ensure, the reason for those regulations is ensure that those investments and the quality of life that people are going to try to build here in Oktibbeha County is protected from other investments that may not be compatible with in the long run. We're going to talk about barring any sort of investment or construction or building countywide, but we are talking about trying to sort things out so that in certain neighborhoods, incompatible uses are limited or eliminated, while being directed toward more compatible locations, and also having regulations in place that are sensitive to the pace and the density of development that's taking place in your rural parts of your county versus your more urbanizing parts.
And that applies more to neighborhood zoning regulations, but what about the gentleman who wants to build a house on the 40 acres? Would you be in the business of telling them how to drain the driveway, how to drain their, or is this? I know we talked about, you said before, you could have a hog farm with what I'm suggesting in this, I mean, from ag base, but what about, like I said, the guy that bought 5 acres and he wants to build his house? Where does the government stop and tell him what to do in the middle of his property?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that the general rule is that the closer together and more people you gather together, the more you're going to have a need for, and more supervisors probably accept the need for some intervention. When you're out in the county and you're developing a low density, your need for regulation is low, but your bad neighbor problems are lesser than less, because you have fewer people live close together. Now, there are some developments out in the county, like junkyards and hog farms and things like that you may want to have some additional control over, because that 5 acres and one house might be close enough to a potential development that would be detrimental to that property owner. But in those areas, we're not talking about overburdensome regulation, because I think you hit on an important point, which is that people move out to the county and they build on that 5 acres, as an example, for a certain quality of life. We want to protect them. They deserve protection of their quality of life just as much as somebody that maybe is a little closer to town is more dense development.
What I've noticed in the last, having lived here since '95, there are people that move to the county that have a big block of land and be left alone, and they won't. There are also people that move to the county and live in neighborhoods, which I find that very interesting. I think a lot of that flight from the town for this reason or that, but so I do understand the protection of the neighborhood. There are a lot of neighborhoods in my area and probably every area that essentially somebody buy a 40, 50 acre block and they go in and they'll build 40 or 50 homes.
That's right.
But they're wanting to make a profit. And then I was introduced to private roads. I didn't really know those existed, honestly, until about 4 or 5 years ago, that developers promised people they're going to do this and that at the end, and the roads were never built to standard. I've got about 5 of those neighborhoods in my district that are gravel, very well be gravel. So every time a house is bought, somebody calls, when are you going to pave the road? And I have to explain the process to them every time. So, but I guess I'll probably lean more against this, and you're going to have to sell me on it. But I want to make sure that people, I don't know, that's going to lead into my question about grandfather. If somebody's had property and they, are those people protected under this at all?
Absolutely.
17-123 is the police power state code. And it's, for me, that's what I question on. This may be a board attorney question as well. Is police power protected? So what kind of power do we have? Really, what's the enforcing agency on this?
Yeah, so for zoning and for subdivision regulations, the board has the force law of local ordinance. And so you can set penalties for violations, including appeals process as well as fines, continuing fines if people don't follow your local ordinances. Just like somebody ran a stop sign or violated one of a traffic regulation somewhere in town, right? That's a local ordinance and there's a penalty for violating that. And the basic purpose for having a stop sign and traffic ordinance and having the zoning ordinance are very similar. Safety and welfare are implicated by it, and zoning, of course, goes a little bit further by also protecting property values. So, for example, if someone does invest in 40 houses on 40 acres, those homeowners, what they buy is protected from somebody coming in right next door and putting in a hog farm or a mini storage or something that might be considered a bad neighborhood for that neighborhood. Whereas at the edge of it, when you get over into the next 40 acres, that may be rural. Right? That may lead into the rest of the rural county. And so the level of protection offered for zoning district designations should very much depend on the character of development in that specific location. So it's not burdensome. And we all know folks are going to reject regulation. People don't like to be told what to do. That's just the reality of government and governing. I think our job as planners is to give advice on how to respect that in a way that provides an optimal level of protection without being overburdensome in those areas that are rural, slower growing, where the potential for planning problems are lower than areas that are developing more quickly and have a much greater need for public services. The 40 acres that has a farm on it is going to have a lot less road and sewer and those kind of infrastructure impacts than the 40 acres that has housing on it. And so planning for that housing differently than planning for that rural area is an important step in allowing you to protect the roads, protect the infrastructure, protect the investment, protect the tax base in the county. But you do need a tool that lets you point at different locations on the map, different districts, and say these are fundamentally different spots, they're different places, and so the rules are going to be different between those two as far as what you can do out there, how close together you can build, and things of that nature.
Could this be written for single family use if my family bought 10 acres that it didn't apply to me? As far as somebody telling me how to develop my land, how to develop my...
Yeah, the district, every district, first off, the county has to have a comprehensive zoning plan, which means that every unincorporated area has to be in a district, at least one. And the rules within that district have to be uniform. So within a district, everybody has to be treated the same based on the character of that neighborhood development, but you can have differences between zoning districts. So for example, over here on page 8, there's a list of typical zoning districts. These are not recommended zoning districts, they're just typical. An agricultural district would have much less regulations for a single-family development than a single-family residential district. Within that single-family residential district, or within the category of single-family residential, you might have a district that allows for manufactured homes all throughout the district, and a district that doesn't allow for manufactured homes. And you can see where parts of the county where there are already manufactured homes, and in the future people are going to want to put those in, might be regulated or zoned differently than parts of the county where somebody has built a single-family only residential subdivision, and they want to know that if something happens, that they're protected from incompatible land uses.
I saw Rankin County, the board of supervisors tried to disqualify manufactured homes, and they back at home down there, and then they ended up, board members quit and everything else, just to be cognizant of that, because they I think they're gonna be the first county, you remember that, first county in the state that, it was an uproar, I don't know, manufactured homes or, some people's only way of, being able to have affordable housing, so
Absolutely.
we need to be aware of that, that I don't think you can blanket. That's what Rankin was doing, they're gonna do, like, if your driveway's over so many feet, everybody can blacktop the driveway, some people, 2,800 feet driveway, can't afford it. Basically stop.
Some counties have moved too far too fast. We've seen a couple of recent examples of that for sure. And we don't want that to be Ohio County.
Yeah, they didn't make that for us.
Well, and there are areas where I think, I've seen it, where neighborhoods do not object to being protected from manufactured homes. And there are places in the county where it's entirely appropriate. And state law doesn't let us just do a blanket prohibition on manufactured housing. You can do some regulation based on age and aesthetic quality, and do they have underpinning porches? Those are safety and aesthetic kind of decisions that have to be tailored to your constituents, to your community. I say a lot of times, just because you can do something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Let me ask you, with that, the type things you're mentioning now about every driveway has to be paved, would that fall under codes within that district? Are we now, I guess, branching over into certain codes, or would that be something blanketed within that district? I mean,
You could incorporate driveway and especially commercial parking requirements for hard surface paving and parking requirements. Those things are sometimes incorporated into the zoning code. I don't know that Ottawa County would find it right, the correct thing to do to incorporate those in Ottawa County's zoning code or any code.
right.
Just because you can do it, it's possible to do it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing to do to solve the kind of problems you're anticipating having in the future. I don't borrow trouble. My grandma always said, don't borrow trouble. We're not looking to invent planning problems for Ottawa County. We're looking to respond.
And the reason I ask, I wanted to make sure we were keeping codes and things of that nature separate.
Absolutely.
From the conversation, so people don't get confused and think we intermingling in all of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. The authority and the tool itself, there are several separate authorities. There's the zoning ordinance, which is the division of the county into districts, where you can regulate land use and density, how close things are together, how far apart they are, and whether it's commercial, industrial, single family, multi-family. So that's the zoning regulation. Subdivision regulations, when somebody divides up property for sale, they are usually creating some form of public infrastructure that the public, and by the public I mean the taxpayers of the county, will have to take care of. Ratepayers and taxpayers take care of public infrastructure, whether it's water lines or public roads, right? So when they do that, when they go through that process, a set of subdivision regulations, frankly, ensures that what gets sold can get served. Right. And y'all run a public service business. What gets sold to a person has the services that are needed for them to use and enjoy that property. And a good road is a big part of that in a county setting, in any setting, but especially in counties, because your roads are the way your ambulances get in, the way your school buses get in, the way your garbage trucks get in, the way your fire trucks get in. All your public services are connected to that piece of infrastructure that the resident or the property owner depends on, and they look to y'all to maintain once it's built, or sometimes when it's not built, they want you to upgrade it. So having a good set of regulations in place that guide the subdivision property through the development of new infrastructure so that the cost of that infrastructure is paid by the people that are benefiting from the sale of the property, the development. And the long-term maintenance costs of it are balanced against the benefits being derived from the property's development. In other words, the tax base comes online, it begins to remit property taxes, as we all pay it, and then that is used to maintain the infrastructure in the future, instead of the alternative, which either doesn't get built or gets built poorly and falls to pieces, and suddenly taxpayers of the county that live on that, in that location, have been sold something that can't be served, and they're at the board of supervisors, and they're rightfully, I think, asking their elected officials to do something about that. Well, they have the right to ask that. I think the board also has the right to require that the long-term maintenance costs of those things don't fall on the taxpayers of the county as a whole, that's taken care of up front in the process of development. And I'm not talking necessarily about when somebody wants to put 3 or 4 houses on the family lot, share a driveway, and easement, whatever. That's not necessarily what we're talking about. What we're talking about is when they want to divide that property up for sale or building development, and they want to divide off a number of lots, they're going to sell them, and there's a need for a new road.
And what you're talking about is the whole developer fees for fire, I understand that, making sure that they develop to a certain standard, and basically once we start issuing COs, they're out, you know, and once we don't have and I understand that, then it's very likely to be shredded, and it's very hard if it's coming out of the city environment, you're in such a condensed area, but if you look back at it's such a vast expanse, and you go, how do you, within my district, I learned there's many families and many mindsets. They all think different. Some would welcome this, some would say, hey, we want protection. Some would say you better step off the property. Right. And I learned that campaign the first time that there are segments of people that the city did something with the Greensboro Historic District, and they let them opt in or out. So I don't know if that's even possible. You could say, if 80% of people wanted protections from development, let them do it. And that group surprisingly voted in. They wanted, you can't paint your house in Greensboro Street a certain color unless the city okays you can't put a fence up. And they have people moving there all the time. They call, I want to update my fence, but you can't do that unless you go to the board of aldermen to get approval. So I'm not saying we go that strict, but I don't know how you're going to work this out and the board work this out. Because I understand you and I talk a lot. I do understand what you're saying about making sure developers don't do half the job they should on the infrastructure work. I get that, but how you do that with all the other dynamics in the county be interesting to see.
And
I've got a question.
yes, sir.
Some of the low-hanging fruit for us that I think this board has had to be concerned about have been apartments.
Yes.
And I don't know that there's one person on this board that hasn't seen some of the issues that come with that. And when you don't, that may be not the word, when people are put on a road that was designed for rural travel and then you end up with 400 more cars put on that, Green Light Road would be an example. Yeah, or more.
The guy like that is exploding.
Like that, a perfect example. One of the things that we might could do is we're thinking about this, and I'm not suggesting this, I'm just merely, this very low hanging fruit for us here, is we're looking at this, discuss those types of problems as we move into having this discussion. Absolutely. And what that looks like, and then as development gets more, then maybe get into the single family housing residential side of it. Now, I'm not trying to make that argument for that. I'm just saying it's pretty low hanging fruit for us to know that there is some issues out there for traffic counts and things like that. I don't know that that's necessarily what we want to do, but I know that has been something discussed in the past.
I think it's wise to treat, and again, it goes back to the idea that different neighborhoods have different problems. A rural road that is not receiving a lot of traffic count increases is going to have a lot less impact on what y'all have to deal with than a place that's urbanized and growing real fast. So being able to put in place a set of district regulations that make it predictable where that type of road is going to take place, being able to have infrastructure development standards that make it predictable what kind of improvements are going to be required to accommodate that type of development is important. And then the third regulation that we've sort of talked about, a third regulation which we talked about is implementing some sort of construction standard for buildings, or building code for commercial and multifamily especially, and not too early, too fast targeting single-family residential or areas that have not caused problems or potential problems in the past. So phasing in a building code would be a third form of regulation that could implement comprehensive. Again, because you got, if you have these structured appropriately, the districts make it predictable where something's going to happen. That predictability makes it predictable what infrastructure is going to be needed in the future at that location, and then what sort of codes are going to be necessary for the structures that get built in that location. And you can and should, I think, have different standards based on land use impacts. And that's what we're talking about. The rural county on the way out is rightfully going to have a different standard of development, a different district, a different infrastructure requirement than the urbanizing areas. And frankly, I think everyone in the county, and certainly everyone I've talked to, and I've talked to everybody around the table, recognizes that the fast-growing urban areas where people are closer together and where the growth is taking place are places that have problems, or the places where problems have evolved and are likely to evolve in the future. They're the hot spots we need to care for in order to get to a good footing, and then we need to be very thoughtful and, I dare say, even minimalist in our approach as we move out from there across the rest of the rural county.
I think the main thing is going to be the educational piece of this. I mean, we did our public hearings around in the county and got input from the citizens about what they would like to see and things, they would like to see implemented. I think now the key is going to be educating them on how we implement, why we implement, the benefits of implementing. I think the educational piece now is going to be critical. And if we adopted something today, I mean, it's a done deal. We've lost, but if we, educate the public, go into these communities and talk with them and educate them on why some things have now become necessary that 20 years ago, it wasn't. So I think the educational piece of it is going to be critical.
I agree with you, and I think why and where, and understanding how to make everybody happy. That's just not part of what we're hired or any of us hired or elected to do. We're not trying to make everyone happy. We're trying to develop a standard that works for the county. But being able to explain why and where these decisions are important, and also provide some level of reassurances that we're not going down a slippery slope. Because as a planner and a long-time employee of government agencies, I promise you, I can find the next problem that the public needs to be protected from itself about. You turn me loose, I'll find it all day long. But I am restrained in that by the understanding and awareness that we've gained through the planning process with the county. And rightfully so, people are concerned about what this leads to next. What's it leading to now, and what's it going to lead to next? If we can explain why and where these decisions are important, we can answer many of those questions to many people's satisfaction, understanding that some folks are not going to be satisfied with the answers. But we do that diligence in that education awareness process, and that also helps us to make certain that what is adopted is understandable and can be enforced fairly, and that it achieves the outcomes that the county wants to achieve and doesn't go overboard, but also doesn't undershoot the mark of what's necessary to solve the kind of problems that y'all are experiencing.
My concern would be putting too many restrictions on building codes. Many families are doing just the very best they can.
Absolutely.
So we wouldn't want to give those individuals an opportunity to not be able to have affordable housing.
Absolutely.
So I guess in some places that still can exist, in some places it cannot.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think what we want is to have people empowered to be able to choose where and how they enjoy their life in Ottawa County. Whether it's, no matter what income is, no matter what roof you put over your head, as long as that roof is safe, then we're allowing people the choice of the neighborhood they live in, where they invest their business. We're not trying to prohibit or restrict or deny anyone access to a good life in Ottawa County with any sort of regulation. And affordable housing is a huge part of that. It's a huge challenge everywhere we work, and I'm sure everywhere that y'all look and visit.
I'd like to make a motion, we take 3 actions. Action number 1, approve the professional service agreement with Slaughter and Willen. Action number 2, authorize the board president to execute a letter of agreement. And action number 3, direct the county administrator to establish a schedule for the first implementation training session for the board and department heads. It's on the item
1, 2, and 3.
It's been motioned by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Little. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time and your confidence. Continuing to work.
Nathan, I'll be in touch, with the service agreement, her signature, get y'all signature, and we'll begin working on that schedule.
We'll get everything moving.
Okay, next on the agenda, we got our tax assessor collector, but it looks like she stepped out.
Well, so what we're gonna do here, Supervisor, I put in your packet here, we're gonna try to run a consent agenda
Okay.
during this meeting. All of the items under this section of the meeting will be approved by consent of the board. We will not go through each item individually. I hope you've had an opportunity. Each supervisor can take an item off of the consent agenda, and we will address it individually if that's what this board chooses to do.
I think, did we pass order last time?
We have passed an ordinance and a policy that has directed me to implement a consent agenda, and it's taken me a little time to get this moving. And we're gonna feel our way through it. This will be our first opportunity to test this thing out.
Sounds good. If you all look through those items on the consent agenda, is there anything that anyone would like to pull out?
I just want to say, I never thought to David ran a consent agenda, which is general county business, so the legality of that is if any board member sees something and it'll happen every meeting, every other meeting, something that they want to discuss for whatever reason, I saw a touch truck on there. That might be something we want to tell the public about the touch truck coming up, and that's on May 2nd. But typically, that's just that's general business for the board. It's a time thing that we see every other week, and it's just something that it's a time saver, and it's also it's a good use of our time as a board. So I guess the move approval, it'd be a move approval for the motion to carry the consent agenda would be correct.
Yes.
That was all blanket, all of those things, but the public still has an opportunity to read through there, so I make that motion.
Motion by Supervisor Carter, second by Supervisor Trainer. Discussion. Just to add a little bit more on to what Supervisor Carter said, these are non-controversial issues, standard run-of-the-mill type issues. With that being said, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
If I could add, the packets are loaded onto the county website. Every single one of these items on the agenda are available to the public prior to the meeting in detail. They're also listed in summary on this current agenda. So I feel like we've done a good job of keeping the public informed and providing the information that the board needs to make a decision on these items. And they are routine items that are primarily administrative, and in some cases, the board has already discussed these items and their follow-up requirements in order to execute them. Thank you, Supervisor.
You're welcome. Okay, next on the agenda, we have our Chancery Clerk. The students.
Well, we got that, county.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did all of
Okay,
that.
we're done.
Now we're
Got you. Trial and error, first run. Next on the agenda then, we've got our county engineer, Mr. Clyde Pritchard.
Good morning. All in the new system too. Just to follow up on the previous presentation, Rob, with respect to your comments about some of the low-hanging fruit in the apartment developments and all that, I would remind the board as you go forward, you have adopted some permit guidelines. And those guidelines, although rudimentary, do provide for some protections. What we've not done a great job is implementing, informing the public, and creating the logistics for enforcing those. But there are some, you mentioned roadway acceptance. There's some criteria in those guidelines that says, you want the county to accept this road or not. Early on, some of that gets ignored, but maybe that needs to be part of your conversation going forward, just to revisit some of that.
Problem is being able, it's enforcing it.
That's correct, and part of it's been education.
Not a lot of it in place, where we have not been enforcing.
That's correct, and what, and my observation is, some of the developers that come to us, they ask about those, we inform them about those, they welcome them, they participate. We have a very few that says, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do anyway. And then we have some that we never know about. So some of it is gonna be in education, that the public knows, some of it's gonna be how you handle those and how. There are some very basic protections out there.
I think in that respect, we've done a real good job of enforcing development in subdivisions. Because we have not adopted those subdivision roads that have been created and not being created to county standards. We always tell them they gotta see the county engineer to get them up to county standards before they adopt them. And what we haven't been enforcing is development, like for example, like that area, when those large development take place, we said that we would have them to invest in roadway development. If it need to be widened, we said that developer would take on the financial responsibilities of making those roadways better.
Some of the early stuff caught us by surprise, but you do have a mechanism in place now, and we'll use Blackjack or any other place in the county for that. If a large development comes in, you have an ordinance in place that requires them to talk to us about how many houses and how much traffic and what they're gonna do. And even for me to require, impact study for the traffic, where I can come back and say, well, we're gonna have to widen this road, we're gonna have to do this and the cost of that. But again, I think maybe the board would want to revisit that conversation or revisit that ordinance and see what it says.
Do we have, this is, for both of y'all, do you have a copy of all those ordinances and everything that had been adopted before? Because that was before, so.
I want to be careful that we use the right terminology. I don't know that I have a copy of an ordinance that was passed, right? I do have copies of the procedures that were developed, both the site development permit procedures, the road adoption procedures, and I think there's some guidance on subdivisions. Right. With that said, I wasn't here for it, so I'm not aware of ordinances that were passed that provide for penalties and obligations in accordance with our current governing documents policies. last year, this board approved a governing documents policy that has very strict guidelines as to what it takes to pass an ordinance, to pass a policy, those kinds of things. So to answer your question, no ma'am, I'm not aware of ordinances to the effect. I am aware of policies, and when I use the word policy loosely, they tend to be more procedural than policy.
Can we get a copy of all of that, like send it out to us? Because like, I know I have a lot of people lately that have called and asked me about, do I need to come and get,
One of the things that I've been working on, recently, and I need to get this board to bless it before I start sending it out to the public, is something called a citizen's guide to building in Oktibbeha County. And basically what it's doing is it's an attempt to take these procedures that have been developed around 2016 is the dates I'm seeing on this stuff, and trying to put it all into one coherent document with frequently asked questions and some guidelines to kind of tie it all together, whether it be the flood zone permitting, the driveway permitting, the road acceptance guidelines that we have in place, as well as the site development permit. So yes, ma'am, I'll gladly send you everything we got. I would tell you that it's a disparate, a scattered number of policies and procedures that are not tied together very well. And my citizen's guide is an attempt to have one place where somebody can go that would explain all these different pieces and parts of this thing.
We don't have an official ordinance that we adopted. We, like Mr. Pritchett said, we got sort of some regulations that we talked about and voted to put in place. Part of it, but like county administrator said, one sits on this shelf, one sits on that shelf, one's over here, and we don't. But part of what it was, we didn't have very good trigger mechanisms put in place. And like Mr. Pritchett said, we might, if that developer chose to do so and came and we'd know about it, but if one chose not to, we wouldn't, we'd ride by and housing was being built, so we didn't have very good trigger mechanisms. Even with that, putting that document together, we would still need some trigger mechanisms.
Yes, sir, and in order to get there, anytime we create obligations or enforcement standards which come with penalties and those kinds of things, obviously we have to adopt an ordinance, right? And right now, I know of no penalties. So let's say somebody didn't prepare a site development permit and they just went out there and did their thing. As far as I can tell in the regulations, there's nothing that this board could do. There's no obligation. There is an obligation in theory, but there's no consequence for not following. And to the supervisor's point, right now they can't hook up the water unless the sewer has been approved, right? But that's more of a state thing through NDEQ. That's not necessarily this board saying that to be the case. We don't have certificates of occupancy per se put in place where they wouldn't be able to hook up electricity to a home unless unless a certificate of occupancy has been issued, right? And so there's no enforcement mechanisms, triggers, as Supervisor brought up, that are currently in place.
One of your more expensive reoccurring issues goes to just what Supervisor Carver alluded to earlier, is in what you have now, it says you want the county to adopt this road. And if you say, no, don't come see me for 10 years. Well, what happens in about year 5 or 6, that subdivision full, all these people who ran your phone don't know why the road ain't paved. But that developer didn't share that.
Or except they said that the county was gonna fix it at the end, that was the way to set up lots. So I would say this, that citizen guide, just plan being there, they can do it longer, but it is very, I think a lot of times, I bought land now, but, it took me about 3 to 6 months to figure out, because PUD collects, where do I pay my light, where do I pay my gas bill, where do I pay my light bill? Fort County does that, PUD collects, a lot of times with rural water associations, and it's like, you do that, something we can hand and move, just move. Like
That's the intent, yes.
And
Now, obviously, it won't tell you where to pay your Fort County bill, or who, there's so many water associations, I can't include all of that in there. But to your point, yes, if you get ready to develop a 3-acre home site, right? It walks you through, this is what you have to do. If you're getting ready to develop a Dollar General, then it walks you through, this is what you have to do. If and it also includes the flood zoning permitting and the 911 requirements and helps you through the process. The idea is to pull all of these different regulations / policies kind of together in one place so that we can better inform the citizens as part of the discussion was with,
He's on Brent, but Court Bostic in my office is building a lot of those calls right now about what we do in the county. Where do we go for this?
Y'all are feeling the cost?
A lot of
y'all.
Just because,
People trying to find out.
yeah,
So that's just something, that document's gonna be extremely valuable. I'll say this on the record, that a lot of my bigger development friends from the Madison area, they say, we'd rather do business in Madison. I thought Madison's so strict. They said, no, you go there, you get a check. You get a, hand you a binder, you do this, and this. It's stringent, but it's still, here in October and the city, it's, you kind of get pulled every which way, but.
I will say this, and I'll get on to the plan.
Yeah.
Back over.
It's
I will say, what's in place now, from our end, does not include code of any kind.
That's right.
And if there are code requirements out there, I don't know what those are.
And I would say that we cause some of that confusion too as an organization. Culverts is an example that comes to my mind, right? If you're gonna let the county, if you're just gonna take the standard county culvert, then you would approach you guys and request a culvert. But if you're gonna do some sort of large driveway that hooks into the county road, something contractual that you're gonna hire somebody to do and you're gonna install this culvert yourself, then you require a driveway permit, I think is what it's called. And a lot of people get all that confused. They don't know how to do it, us included. And so I think this citizens guide, which I'm about 90% through, I've been working on as I had time, will go a long way towards trying to clear up some of the confusion for us as well as the public.
I think our office, that the site development plan. The site development plan plays a good service, but that office is receiving a lot of pressure too.
Yes, I agree with that.
Because that's a requirement that they have permission from the state health department that you're gonna be able to dispose of wastewater. And she's holding them responsible for that. And then there's a requirement that the person get permission from the rural water system that they will provide water. So and then they could not get a covenant. And she's not gonna issue a covenant until all of that has been taken care of. So her office plays a vital role to make sure all of this is being implemented, but she's getting a lot of pressure as a result of trying to hold everybody responsible.
I'm not sure that's her job. I'm saying part-time county engineer, whatever we're looking at, that's yet another job duty we could delegate to that individual. So I know what you're saying. I don't know that she's having to delegate authority she may not have the authority to do. And it puts her in bad, I've talked to her, it puts her in bad.
Well, and it's additional duty for her.
Yeah,
it's certainly not her main duty. She's just basically administering it more than overseeing it, I guess.
That was sort of an attempt so that we would sort of know what's going on, what's being built in the county.
Right.
If you went through that site development permit, you know, you went through these steps of filling out, we getting ready to build a house out here, so the county would sort of know, because like we just got through talking about, there's a lot of homes being built, you don't know until you ride past. You know, we've talked about several different things, and we sort of touched on getting water, and the site development sort of led you to getting water, but then that triggered, you had to have proper sewer in place before. So these things, we were trying to address some things, but it's all disjointed, in different places. I would even say the one main thing you talked about was the roads. I would say we need to adopt something that says regardless, if you're doing a development subdivision, the road needs to be built to county standards regardless of whether we're gonna adopt them or not. It's no guarantee that we're gonna adopt them, but we still require you to build roads to county standards. If you're gonna build a road in this county, it has to be a certain standard. But anyway, we've talked about a lot, and I guess that sort of goes back into this comprehensive plan, and we talked about doing that. But
I'll try to get back.
Okay, fine.
Any questions about the, first item on my list was approval of payment for the soluble sulfate test. That was tests that were run on Dry Creek Road when it was an LSPP project before we canceled that and repaired it for county funds. But in order to close that project out from the state, we need to pay the state for those tests.
Move approval.
Motion by Supervisor Carter, second by Supervisor Trainer. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. The second on mine was an update, I guess, on the right-of-way acquisition for Sherman Drive. I did submit an invoice to the county that our invoice would be paid by LSPP funds if the project moves forward. But if the project's going to lay dead, I'd like to get paid for our services. So I don't know what the status of that right-of-way acquisition is right now.
So who would know? Who would have information?
The last meeting it was held that I know of was myself and the county attorney and Ms. Woodward with Dixie.
She has not signed anything and has not put it back out. I think she's waiting to find out about the trees, you know, and getting them cut.
Yeah, I'll reach back out to her again and find out. I thought we kinda had it on its way, and maybe not.
What about the land over on the other side? Has anybody reached out to them?
Well, he's not gonna do it till she does it, I thought.
All I'm saying, if this ain't gonna happen, I'd like to get paid.
Yeah, I think it's gonna happen. I think she's just waiting to find out about the tree situation. And I'll talk to her today. I'll call her.
I think that's probably the better.
Yeah, I'll talk to her today.
No action need to be taken right now on this one.
Item 3 was, provided to you your current state aid status of funds. I put a couple of notes on there, I think circled the top of your state aid road money. Point being, the road money's growing, like we said it would. And it's a little bit hard to get a handle on right now because it's tied to so many different things. I think I heard on the news this morning, the lottery proceeds were a record for this month or something. And some of your money comes from that, but your state aid road money is growing. Your LSPP and SAPP, which are your bridge monies, technically you're upside down in those right now. Those board orders that we're canceling will help straighten some of that out. Get those updated. That's just administrative work on the whole. Any question about that?
Make sure you get with us, get what you need so we get it straightened out, whatever that. Are you waiting on some board orders from us?
I will need, you passed in a consent while ago to cancel 3 LSPP jobs.
Gotcha.
That's right. Keith, Clyde informed me that we're gonna need three distinct board orders, one for each of those projects.
Yeah, I'll need an individual order for each one of those, because they're different files that they.
Well, on the consent order, since we're,
One consent minute and then it is.
No, we'll talk about,
Yeah,
we'll talk about the administrative side of that later.
The next was, we had offered by email a quote for temporary striping on the county lake slurry seal. Since then, I have talked to Harry Lee James at State Aid about the question of the county being reimbursed for the temporary striping. Harry Lee has asked that we execute what they call a CCR, which is basically a change order with Vance Construction to take out the thermoplastic striping, add the paint back in there, and do it administratively through State Aid, so it will be covered. So I will prepare those documents, have those for you at the next board meeting. The other option would be, Supervisor Howard, if you wanted to accept that quote and do that striping, then that's basically on the county's dime with no guarantee that State Aid would reimburse the county. Right. If there's gonna be a potential for reimbursement, it's gotta go through the change order process.
And you said by the next board meeting, you think?
I can offer you the documents then they will go to State Aid to review, then they will go to Vance Brothers to review, and they may or may not sign it because
we're at least a month out for that, or 2 months out. for that.
we're probably 2 months out at least.
Well, I'd like to get this thing straight. This is a dangerous road at night when it's raining. You absolutely have no vision in front. This is this slurry seal that y'all know the company came and did on a Saturday with no oversight from our engineer. And we're sort of in discussions with that. But right now, it's just a slurry seal. They didn't stripe it or anything. And when you're on that road at night and it's raining, it's extremely dangerous. You can't see the curves or anything.
That's the one
About $10.
It's a little over $10.
But have you got more than one quote for?
I only have one quote from JCG.
Do we need to declare this an
I
emergency
think
drive
so.
in order to get past some of the procurement?
Yes, sir. Here's the thing, if somebody has an accident on that road, we're gonna have a major problem. And it is a dangerous road.
And we could accept it under emergency, if that's what you wanna do now, and go ahead and file paperwork with State Aid and walk that trail through, and it may or may not in the end work out, but we can go that route too.
Well, let's go ahead and move forward then, if we can declare it under emergency, and we'll just take that from District 3 funds and go ahead and get this road straight.
So move.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Little. Any discussion? All in
I
favor?
have one discussion. With the consent of the board, not having the emergency declaration resolution present today, we'll issue a board order which can get Clyde moving. And then I'll follow it up next meeting with a resolution so that we'll have it documented properly for procurement law purposes.
As soon as I receive the board order, I will send JCG a letter telling them it's the board intent to do this, put it in their queue to get this done.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Item 5 on my list was update on the emergency slope stabilization at 4 Professional Plaza. That's the office building next to the hospital.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Carter, second by Supervisor Trainer. Any discussion?
What's the update? I'd like
You
to
just
know.
approved it, I know. No, in the original quotation budgeting, we had some slope repair by a specialty contractor, we had some concrete repair, we had some pipe repair. And what I'm doing now is putting all that in one package for one general contractor so that we got one entity to deal with. All right, and I would expect, we're about to end of February, somewhere mid-February, we should be able to come to you and say, here it is, here's what it's gonna cost us.
Well, the sooner the better. I mean, obviously, we declared an emergency for it, so we're concerned about it. Number two, it's tied up in this hospital deal, which is something.
Correct.
Would y'all like to talk about that now? Because I've got some further information on getting the property back in our name.
I will add too, and Mr. Carter and I spoke about this briefly, this is strictly exterior work. The to my knowledge, nobody's been inside the building to assess what structural integrity or cosmetic condition or blah, blah, blah.
I was inside the building last week, and, I didn't see anything of alarm. I mean, and I'm not an engineer, but I'm just saying, I didn't see anything of alarm. I walked around the location of where the slope is, sloughing off a little bit, and it seems to be isolated about 20 feet or a little more away from the foundation of the building at this point.
That's correct, but it has progressed since I've looked at it.
Having not seen it, I can't tell you if it's progressed or not. That was my first look at it.
My final, comment was, I'd offered by email, and I think I mentioned it in the last board meeting, was not aware that you received a proposal for LiDAR mapping on your roads. That actually showed up in the minutes that were put on the website or something, I'll both pick that up. But Duncan Engineering, who is my parent company now, has a standing invitation to the board to select a road to do LiDAR mapping and present to you a demonstration on what they can do and how they can do it, what that looks like, and how you work with it, etc. It's at no cost to the board. They just need you to pick a road. But as a follow-up to the proposal that y'all received, they developed a similar proposal. I have 5 copies here. Wayne, I apologize, I'm going short, but y'all can distribute that. And I'll leave it to you to look, but the Cliff Notes version is, they can do the same amount of work for almost half the money. The proposal you had was to be performed in a year. They've asked for 3 weeks to do it. So I'd ask you to look at it, and if you have any questions, and if we need to invite the Dungens up here, but I think rather than just a presentation, get a real good picture, just pick a road and let them show you what they do.
Pick the worst one or the best one.
Don't care, I'd rather not have one 20 miles long, but.
Sessoms Road would be an apples to apples comparison to something you already have.
Say it again?
Sessoms Road would be an apples to apples comparison to something you already have. Artesia Road, yeah.
That's what y'all option.
I make a motion that we allow Doug to come in and make a presentation to us.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, I'll second that, second by Supervisor Howard, that we allow Duncan to come in and make a presentation. Then we'll discuss.
We already approved payment to PDD for this service.
Negative. I did meet with Toby. I have not brought that agreement back before the board for approval. There are some changes that need to be made to the agreement. But in light of this conversation, I was prepared to kind of make those changes and get it in front of the board. But given that it was half the price and those kind of things, I was kind of wanting y'all to have the opportunity to at least hear what Duncan had to say before I offered that up to you.
What would the PDD is, 150 a mile? Sound right?
Say again, sir?
PDD is 150 a mile? I'm just asking.
The total was $112,000. I can't remember how much it was a mile.
Yeah, I'll vote for this, I was just wondering.
If that's the pleasure of the board, what I'd really like to do is let us scan Sessom/Artesia Road and bring that there to you by way of demonstration and introduction.
And I want to make sure that, all right, this says it includes MSU and Starkville, but total estimated cost of the cost of the road proposes.
The GTPDD excluded.
No, what they did, Miss Patty, you'll see the number of repairs, like 749 down the road, that would include Starkville and MSU. They quoted the actual 732 miles of activity with an option in there to add MSU and Starkville.
Okay, that's to add Nathan Sturgis, MSU Starkville. The 749 includes Nathan Sturgis.
Correct. The county stuff, and if MSU and Starkville for some reason, if the county elected to use them, and if MSU and Starkville elected to use them also, then there was another $24,000, $26,000 or something to go. We've had a similar meeting with MSU, I've not met city start.
When they come to town, make sure that you let me know, because I wanna make certain that I come down here and meet these people and kind of get them.
Sure, but, I mean, it's pleasure of the board, I'd like to scan the road first, get that.
So which road, we mentioned Sessom Road, which apples to apple road?
Which road?
Which?
I'm saying from the county line on Sessom/Artesia Road to
That's right. I'm saying which apples to apples, because we were saying that has another road already been scanned that we were.
That's the one they put up for us in that presentation, right?
GTPDD scanned Artesia. And so the idea is, we've seen the product that GTPD provided for Artesia Road. Now let's see the product that.
So Sessom's, okay, I was just trying to figured out which road you were
Yes,
talking
sir.
about, comparing. Okay.
Mr. President, I would like to, select one of the gravel roads, because Artesia Road is already paved. And I guess we pretty much got a good idea about how do we handle that.
It was
For my discussions with.
because the LiDAR
That's
was
right.
saying that the gravel up dust kicking up, it, had to show power line of trees.
Yeah.
They haven't got technology for gravel yet.
Those are the ones that I'm, kind of interested in.
And this is just for comparison purposes.
It
This
is,
is not.
it is, I just, before the board makes a decision, and this is something that you looking at, this is something these folks do all the time. They just got a lot of.
Well, I don't guess the board has to authorize them to go do it if they want to go do it and then come back and show us what they did.
I thought that would be the best presentation they can offer, just to go do one thing together, put the tools together, and come back and show you what they can do.
This is a very nice put together, both very important, like this.
Just come do it.
We did, they got folks that just do that.
So, okay.
All that together.
I got nothing but
What was
nice
that?
things about that.
I had two more items just quickly.
What's up?
We just need to accept his update.
Yeah, I think that was just an update. The last one we didn't carry out though was authorizing, Duncan to come and give a presentation. So that was, we have a motion in a second. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Number 5, the progress, the emergency slope stabilization. There was a Carver and Trainer, a motion and a second on that one that was not carried out.
Okay, so what was that motion on the slope stabilization?
There was no action, it was
Just
simply.
an update.
That was just a.
That one.
Yeah, I don't think that. Now, Rob asked, did we want to update on?
Yeah, let me tell you, while we were talking about that.
Yeah.
I have gotten the order, hallelujah, to set aside the tax deed. We're going to have to pay these people back, according to the board order, or the order from the judge, a total of $12,782.64, which is the amount they paid plus over and above. So that y'all are aware, I sent an order with a blank spot stating the judge to tell us how much to pay, and I sent him one with the total amount they paid. He determined that the total amount they paid is unfair to give them back that amount, so that it's clear they get an overbid of $1,141, and then there was $66.92 for the amount they paid for their deed. But the amount that we're gonna owe them back is $12,782.64, and I will need an order at the proper time, or this may be the proper time to go ahead.
I think motion by Supervisor Little, second by Supervisor Trainer, to authorize our board attorney to move forward with reimbursing this company for the taxes paid on this county property. Any discussion?
Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead and take that out.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Rob, I'm gonna need a copy of that order.
Yes, sir. Also, I'm gonna reach out to the hospital. We still have some things like the slope and some things like that that are going on. I'm gonna reach out to Baptist to have a discussion, assuming this board wants me to find out whether or not there's interest in letting us do something different with this property rather than wrong with the sale. If that meets everybody's approval, I don't need a board where I can have that discussion with them. I just don't want to do it without y'all being on board with that conversation.
What was that total price again, Rob?
I'm sorry, it is $12,782.64.
And that's going back, can you say the name?
That is going back to Sunshine State CERT, C-E-R-T, and then there's, it's an LLLP.
Well, it's two final things. Previously, the board asked me to look at two roadways suffering drainage issues, one being Chicago Lane, one being Dido Road. I've ridden those roads, so I need a little office time, a little work to try to come up with call it a schematic design on what might alleviate this problem. I can do that on a unit rate, you know, if you're happy with that, or I could ask the board, say, to give me a not to exceed $2,500 for each or something for some office time, CAD time, drainage study, et cetera, to try to figure out what to do with those two roadways.
Dido and Chicago.
Chicago Lane and Dido. You asked me about orders before to look at them, I wrote them and looked, but it's gonna take a little work to figure out what to do.
I guess that's common.
Yeah, I'm at Operating, Creek, right there, the Creek one. Down there and all, the Creek and back, they all out there. I make a motion we do, just so have an idea of the money that.
Yeah, I need some office time to figure out what it's gonna take to fix the roads and offer some kind of estimate of budget for what to do.
Motion by Supervisor Little, second by Supervisor Trainer. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, that's all I got.
I have one question, Supervisor Howard. This, LSVP 20, that we are going to take off is not on this list that you, gave us. So I was trying to track of the, state aid bridge projects that we were going to review as far as the update on the funds. But I don't see LSVP 20 on here.
It was
It was
in
on our.
it was in a consent order.
Yeah, but so it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not, so we don't have, so I'm not gonna account for those.
That was a state aid error, it's in their system, it just didn't make their list. So I would like a order to go ahead and cancel that.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're right, they could get.
Mr. President, there are several roads that, you got paid for engineering costs. Are you gonna be doing anything, on those roads like that and, on Road 3?
Yes, we got a ton of work to do. Yes.
I mean, it's just certain things that you can do. I'm just thinking if anything can be done, the weather is not suitable.
Not much, we put some signs up, but probably about March, this guy's gonna bust open with work coming in. As soon as we get favorable temperature and weather. We have temperature limitations on asphalt and seal and paint and all that kind of stuff. I would suspect somewhere around mid-March, you're gonna see an influx of contractors coming in. You're right, you have contracts under award, we're waiting on that.
Anything else from Mr. Pritchard? Not. Motion to accept report. Motion by Supervisor Carter, second by Supervisor Little.
Thank y'all.
All in favor?
Y'all can attend.
The motion passes unanimously. Okay, next on the agenda, we've got our county administrator, Mr. Carter.
Road manager.
Road manager, sorry.
Him on there.
I had a section
Yeah, Brad Department. No,
He
I-
didn't submit any items, but I know he always brings stuff to the board, so I put him on the agenda.
Mr.
God don't really have anything other than make a couple of board. Good morning, Chair. Board order to advertise our road spreading, roadside spreading for paved and gravel roads.
Need a motion? Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Williams. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
One other thing, on the ditcher, when everything was said and done, when we added in the cost to install it on the machine, it exceeded our quote limit. So we need an order to advertise for that, ditcher and installation.
Okay. Need a motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Williams. Any other discussion? All in favor? Right. Motion passes unanimously.
And that's all I have.
Yeah, what will the spraying be done? It have to be done at night, or that's what?
No. It'll be done in the daytime. They usually try to get started latter February, early March. Right. So that's why we need to get it. We have been quoting this, but we had some stipulations the last time, and it kind of exceeded our quote. So we're gonna have to bid it to get, I believe, a better application.
Last time one of the bids came in at over $75,000. We anticipate that both bids may come in at over $75,000 this time. So we don't want to waste time and then have to come back and bid it later. We'd like to go ahead and issue an invitation for bid up front.
Anybody else on road man?
We got that, piece of equipment on the grader, the ditcher trencher.
No, that's what we talking about bid right now. Because of the cost of it, along with the installation on the machine and what they gotta have to install it, it's gonna exceed $75,000. Yeah, the ditcher itself won't, but the installation and the ditcher will.
We can't split that purchase. In other words, the installation and the purchase have to be bid together, and they exceed the $75,000 statutory requirement for issuing an invitation for bids.
Is that a specialized piece of equipment? Like, you just put it on ourselves and we get it in?
Well, that grader is gonna have to be taken in and equipped with the hydraulic capacity it's gotta be it's actually becomes a part of that machine once it's put on.
So what y'all were running before was just kind of?
No, the other one was the same way, but being that it was an older machine, we were able to, these machines has changed, so now everything is electronic, and they have to be, the way they put them on is a little bit more complicated. On that older grader, all we had to do was go purchase some little blocks about that wide with a control coming out of it, and put a control rod up through the floor, and that grader already had those spaces there. So we just bolted that block on there, and it was ready. But on this one, they actually have to go in and go under the floor and go into the hydraulic system and into that hydraulic bank, and that gets above. You gotta know what you're doing if you don't. And just to go to show you, our new machine was out on the road, and I guess somebody decided they wanted to play with it. They went in there and opened the door, and they moved one lever, and they got rid of the low covers, and the thumb wouldn't hold it. And we had to get Cat to come over here and check it out. Somebody moved that lever just from this position around there. And I told them to make sure we lock up everything, which that don't mean a whole lot if they want to get in there. But that's just how this new stuff is.
I did have a couple of things I've been about, like, I've had several calls on different trees and stuff, and I know I talked about this before at the board, but, a lot of them have been marked for a long time.
Yeah.
Because they got, whoever was cutting got busy someplace and exceeded their tree limit or whatever.
Yeah.
Do we have a way of going back and knowing where those trees are?
Yeah, we got a list, and I'm waiting on Jeff to actually get back with me when he's gone. I got 4 or 5 locations that's in detrimental need of being gotten to, because they're starting to drop limbs. And I'll give him a call again today and find out and let him give me a definite age when he's gonna get into it.
Remind me, we're at the beginning of a new contract on that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is right.
Because that's what I'm saying, because I think we need to you know, make sure that we get all those old trees
Yeah,
that
we,
they are,
yeah,
you know, that they didn't get, you know, down
Exactly.
over.
yeah, we got some that's actually, like the lady came in about, was actually dropping limbs. And we definitely need to get all of those old ones taken care of.
And I was gonna say, out in Heritage Colony, you know, that road.
Yep, my guys, we on top of that. The only thing I need to know is
I have her permission.
you, okay,
I said, no, I was wrong, I got her
Okay.
permission, she told me, she said, get me whatever paperwork. or,
Okay.
you know,
All right,
she said,
well,
I'll
we-
even text it to you, have it right, I said, no, we gotta have it signed.
yeah,
So
okay.
she's-
I will get you that form this afternoon.
I'll come by the road.
Okay, we'll get you, and so that way we can get that taken care of.
Sounds good.
We did a big cross drain on New Lake Road. I know it's temporary. They start pave in, March 1.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, and I called you about that, so
Yeah,
what
they-
it is right through there,
Well,
it's amazing
yeah,
once it's cold weather, it starts busting out all the temporary stuff, so I.
Well, we don't want-
You're only talking about a month, but my phone is blowing up.
well, I'm on top of it. I talked with
We
Derek this
grind it or
morning,
something, or?
and he's gonna go out and take the grader and regrade that and smooth it up.
What's that?
And if it rains on it 3 or 4 times, we may have to go in and do a temporary layer with cold mix over it to try to seal it up.
We're only talking a month and a half, but it's considered, you got, with these freeze and the cracking.
Yeah.
It's a temporary getting.
Yeah, I got a call on it too, so, I talked to him this morning, so we're gonna get it taken care of before the day's out.
Anything else for our road manager?
Yeah, we talked about, possible, paving, Daly Road.
Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna be able to do any work on that for us, of drainage and?
Yeah, well, we're gonna,
Post drain, anything need to be done?
as soon as we can get him moved, we got a little bit more to finish up on Wooten. And then I'm gonna get him moved out there and let him do what we can. It's kinda, this time of year, you can actually make a lot more work for yourself. Because like we got 3 or 4 days of rain coming in, if they go in there and pull a lot of ditches and put mud in the road, it kind of wreaks havoc on them. It's hard to get that stuff packed out this time of year.
Yeah, but you'll do what you can.
We'll do what we can.
Anything else?
I saw the lady that came last time I saw her yesterday, y'all came, she said, she's asked had everything been done, and she said no, but I don't know, so.
Okay. Well, they went down and worked on the cover where the water is coming into, on that ditch. They worked on that. They had to replace that cover under that road. So we're hoping to try to get that water flow will go through. And, like I said, on the trees, I'll get with him and see what we can do to get him to cut those. I wish we could go on in there and get them taken care of, but they're trees that drop the limbs and you can't get up under them to cut them when they start dropping limbs. That's where you have to take them down from the top up, from the top down. I mean.
Make a motion to accept the road manager report.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Little, and we accept road manager report. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Collins, I don't know if you might, no, I don't know if you might need to hang around.
Okay.
There may be an issue coming up.
Yes.
At the end of the meeting.
I'm running to the bathroom and I'll be back.
Mr. Carpenter, good morning.
Morning.
Maybe we'll move through this pretty quick. Y'all get on with the rest of your day.
I'll tell you on this first one, Moore High, I didn't understand all those 3, King Dynamic and T.L. Wallace, and then you get in here. What am I missing?
What now? What in?
The Moore High District 5 Fire Station is 241, 398, you get in here and it's not even a construction company, they renamed it or something?
No, T.L. Wallace,
Till Wallace's construction company, they're out of San they're very good.
oh no, I'm sorry, I don't know why they did, maybe
Why
I
are they
messed it
a
up.
bid
I
on
apologize.
prices, or?
Yeah,
So what are the 3? See, on this is what came to us. King, Tabor, and
yeah, that cover sheet,
David Smith on the cover page is.
yeah, ignore, all right, let's do it this way then. Take that cover sheet out, that thing here, I've got it messed up. Let's just ignore this cover sheet and let's go look at the bid tab.
Kenny, Taylor, and
Yeah,
David. That makes no sense, so it's-
I apologize for that confusion. So the bid tabulation tells you what's going on. King Construction, it was responsive, Tabor was responsive, David Smith was not responsive. They were missing some key documents. King Construction came in at $128,654, plus the brickwork, which is what, the Patrick is recommending that we do, bringing it to $133,000. I would entertain a motion to offer the bid to King Construction.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Little. Any other discussion?
Is this, satisfactory to you, and is this?
Well, we're getting the brickwork done too, so it should have some, stability and.
Well, the thought was it was located near that church, and we wanted it to look nice and be a good neighbor for the church there.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I saw the brickwork on there. I thought it's gonna be sustainable, but it's gonna look very nice.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's what I thought. Add value to the church.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Next item on the agenda is, I received an email, from a, Mr. and Miss Brown regarding the resort status request for, Blueberry Beach Farm.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Little, second by Supervisor Trainer. Any other discussion?
They're gonna have the requirement for closing at a certain time of the.
So the sheriff's currently working on, I think the nickname for it is the roadhouse ordinance, which will include some things of that nature. I don't think his target are these wedding reception areas, so doubtfully not. I doubt that they will have a closing requirement being that type of venue. But he's targeting other issues. You'll get that roadhouse ordinance, I hope, within the next 60 days. Our current ordinance, I believe, does, but I know the sheriff's working on updating that ordinance and working through a number of issues that it relates to, I don't know what you call them, pastor parties and some other assemblages that are occurring in the county that are giving him, some anxiety.
But I think that those venues, wedding venues and stuff, they have that, they usually have an 11 or 12 o'clock shutdown time themselves, they curfew themselves.
Most of the wedding venues are like that, at least from what I've.
Because they have to
At
clean
least
up
what
and
I've
get it
seen
all
so far.
prepared for the next thing.
The coming ordinance will reflect these venues, right? And I don't have it in front of me to tell you exactly what the plan is, but they will be regulated in this coming ordinance.
They'll be regulated also.
I think we got a motion second, all in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
You had, back in, I'm trying to remember when it was, November the 3rd, we presented to you a policy, for Oktibbeha County regarding the strategic vision, mission, and values of Oktibbeha County. The board had instructed me and the Human Resources Director to take it back with us and get some input from all of the, department heads and elected officials. We have done that. Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only feedback we got was from the county court, and it was just a minor addition they wanted to a specific part of the policy. They wanted the county court listed under one of the bullet items in the policy. And we made those changes. It was certainly a valid request and updated the policy effectively. So we made those changes. So I offered this policy to the board for approval, knowing that we've had it received by all department heads and elected officials.
Make a motion to accept.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Little. Any other discussion?
start on February the 7th.
Yes, sir. One of the things we got to get worked through is the oath piece of it. And so we're shooting for February the 2nd to have our first oath initiation. Is that, I'm not mistaken, am I, Jennifer?
No, that's correct.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
This is gonna take some explanation. Our depository bid is due. And we'll get into it a little bit later. We issued, I'm sorry, not our depository bid, our CD bid is our CD is maturing February 22nd, I believe it is. January 22nd, apologize. January 22nd. In issuing our depository bid, we had some long discussions with not negotiations, but a clarifying meeting with Guaranty Bank. And in having that meeting and looking at our investment policies, currently the board has only authorized us to utilize a 90-day CD. There are other products out there, investment products out there that meet state law, whether it be cash sweeps or different things these banks offer. And so I felt it was wise to formally adopt an investment policy that allowed us to look at other options. And currently what has been occurring is, based upon the current policy of the board, the Chancery Clerk and the Comptroller would send out requests for quotes, right? Bid quotes, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. All of the banks approved on our depository list would get that email. They would submit in their 90-day quote for a CD, and then we would select that and go ahead and we'd obviously get the one that offered the most money for the 90 days, and then we would open up a CD and come later and inform the board as to what had transpired. Under this new investment policy, we're looking to open that up to get a much better understanding of all of the options that are out there. Maybe the 30-day CD will bring in a much higher rate, say, from Guaranteed than the 60-day, right? And so the idea being, let's see what all is available instead of just limiting ourselves to a 90-day CD, to include the investment cash sweep, which is an approved investment strategy that's approved by the state that I'll get into much greater detail when we look at the depository bid later that's underneath that the Chancery Clerk will be offering. But this investment policy, if you have an opportunity to look through it, we're going to be asking for quotes for multiple terms. We're going to be asking for different products to include both the CDs and the institutional cash sweeps, and all of which are legal and in compliance with state law. So I'll try and entertain any questions you may have.
This allows you all to go out and shop.
It allows us a much greater selection, both in time and in product type, to choose from to ensure that we maximize the return on the available cash that we have in the depository.
Will this allow you to enter into agreement without board order?
No. The purpose of, so now we do that. Right now we just work off of our 90-day CD, and obviously that's a simple selection. It's whichever one's the highest, we enter into an agreement at 90 days, and that's what we do. Under this policy, we would gather all of that, we would make an assessment of everything that was submitted, and we would bring our recommendation to the board for their approval, because it's no longer a simple highest is best, it now becomes a strategic decision, and I think that strategic decision should rest with the board, not with the administration.
Need a motion motion by Supervisor Carver, second by Supervisor Trainer. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
The next thing is I wanted to, given that you've now passed the investment policy, I wanted to show you what we're intending on doing in soliciting quotes for, or competitive bids for the upcoming, fixed rate term investment is what I'm calling it, because it's not necessarily a CD. And so what we would do is we would email out to all of the approved banks that the board approved last meeting, and we would email out this solicitation, and then they would complete this bid response form here. It's all a part of your packet there. And they would submit this back to us. We would do something similar to a bid tabulation and bring that to the board for selection, and of course we also make a recommendation. I guess I'm just asking for your concurrence on our plan to move forward with how we're gonna implement this policy.
That's, that's a great work and forethought before thinking that, they had to be a response tabulation sheet. So, yeah, I will make them, is this in response of a motion or we need this adopted?
No, I don't know that we necessarily have to adopt it. I just wanted to make sure that I informed y'all and that everybody kind of understood how we were gonna take this policy and move forward with it. I would accept a motion, of adoption if that's what it would take. But this is not a policy, this is a procedure. It's just more of an informative thing than it doesn't require a vote even. I just wanted to make sure. So
I'll just say move approval and acknowledgement of this presentation.
Motion by Supervisor Carver, second by Supervisor Lebanon. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
I have some, I get some kind of confused.
Yes, sir.
About whether some banks would be awarded some pocket of funds and another bank would be awarded another pocket of funds based on what they're gonna be awarded in terms of interest.
we could certainly do that, and let's give an example. Now, we wouldn't have to do that, mind you. We would put out a solicitation, and they would tell you what they do for 30, 60, 90, 120 days, right? And the type of product that they would be offering as part of their package. And let's say, for example, we decided, all right, we know that we're gonna make a decision on the hospital funds in the next 60 days, and we didn't want to put that money up for 120 days, maybe we want to put it up to 60. But yet we had the depository general fund and road department excess cash that might be available for 120 days. This board could decide if they wanted to select a product that just included the hospital proceeds for 60 days and then the other excess funds for 120 days in order to maximize the interest that we would receive on those available funds. And all of that would be decided at the time that we brought the responses from the banks back to this board. It's going to be a little more complicated than it has been, but I think we can maximize our returns and understand what the options are a lot better than we've been doing previously.
And all of this will fall within statute.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the four statutes that you referenced, I thought.
Well, so you got different statutes that govern different things. You got certain statutes that tell us what the county can put their money in, and then you've got certain statutes that tell you what you have to do for your depository bids. And then you've got certain statutes that tell you what you have to do for investing money. So don't ask me to quote them off the top of my head, but to say that we're in compliance with all the different statutes that kind of govern this activity is accurate.
And keep in mind, once y'all make a decision, this will go before local and private in terms of, or what?
We're not talking at all yet
I'm sorry,
about
Let me hush.
the ultimate truth. We're talking only about money that's currently sitting in our checking account that we know we're not gonna need for the next 30, 60, 90, 120 days, so that we can maximize what our return's gonna be on that.
Sorry, I didn't know if we had.
No, we haven't transitioned to that one yet. Don't do that.
Just basically on the idle funds that we're not currently
Exactly.
using. But if those, bids does not exceed what we currently have as interest rate for our deposit to it, then we just won't.
And we may start off keeping it simple, right? In that we're kind of feeling our way into this thing. I don't want to get overly complex right out the gate. So we may start off trying to keep it simple. And then, as we feel more confident about this thing, we'll progress. All right.
I think we carried that one.
Make it work.
I have a couple of walk-ons that came in here on Friday, and I hate to do this to y'all. You're not looking at anything that's not on the agenda. Well, Vic brought a whole bunch of stuff to the agenda, so I want to object. Real quick, Marvell, you may help me with this. You were in attendance at this meeting. Mayor Sproul is inviting us to attend a concurrent meeting with the city Board of Aldermen on the 17th at 2 p.m. I wanted to get this in front of the board so that y'all can make a decision as to how y'all wanted to proceed with this.
I'd like to make a motion, we, set up a journey, I guess you can host it if she wants to know.
I don't know that we figured all that out yet to include the agenda, but we'll have another opportunity at this thing on February the 2nd to codify exact locations and agendas and those kind of things. I just wanted to get it in front of you so that I could get it on the calendar and begin working on it.
So, when you have a joint meeting, we call a meeting, they call a meeting, we jointly go in there, does it have to be agenda item preset or some stuff you added at the table?
Well, according to our ordinance, we have to have an agenda. And so yes, we would need an agenda. Now, that's not to say we wouldn't entertain walk-ons, which would supposed to be highly irregular to our meeting process, but seems to be more the norm than the irregularity.
So have an agenda in advance.
That's my intent, yes, sir, is to talk with the city and try and get an agenda of what we're gonna discuss in that concurrent meeting.
Yeah, I think that was the message that was out
there. And I will bring that back to you on February the 2nd, right? At this point, I'm just trying to get a date on the calendar so that I can let the city know.
The reason I'm asking that is pretty tough to get all these boards together, and if there's anything else we need to discuss with the city at the time, it'd be a great opportunity.
Well, I'll entertain any guys that you guys have, that y'all are working through, thinking about this, if y'all would let me know so that I can talk with the mayor as we work through this agenda.
We don't want any surprises. We don't want to spring something on them at the last minute, but we don't want them springing anything on us at the last minute. So yeah, we work off an agenda.
Yes, that's my intent.
But I think this meeting is dealing probably with this one issue. I'd say out of the meeting, I'd like to see us meet quarterly, at least.
Well, and that may be something we can put on the agenda, is try and establish a regular, cadence to having a concurrent meeting.
I need a motion to go ahead and authorize our county administrator to, motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Little. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
The other item is something that I had emailed to y'all, briefly about, it's an opportunity for, they're calling it the Rural Energy Academy Technical Assistance, program that's being put on by NACO. I offered that up to you guys through an email, and Supervisor Trainer, stated his interest in participating in that. I did not know if that required board approval or not, so I wanted to bring that in front of the board just in case, so that we could get him squared away and get his application submitted.
And I think it's gonna require at least one other contact person. It doesn't have to be an elected official, but I think I saw where there was another item. Filling someone to be some type of additional contact person.
Okay, and we'll figure all that out. If you want to put me, that would be fine.
And I would like to participate if I could, if it was, if I can, especially if I can look at it, you know, like.
I think it's all virtual. So you wouldn't have to travel to it.
Okay, and the travel's not, I just need to do it in the evening.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know, Patty, I just, they didn't.
I'd like to do that.
Well, just make a motion to allow anyone that wants to participate.
Anybody, yeah.
So,
Okay.
motion by
If you
Supervisor
want to
Trainer,
go to that, if you want to go to that link and see if that's something that you could do, let me know and we'll fill out an application for both of them.
Because if you know, whoever else wanted, to do it, they could jump on it sometime, because it sounds like it would be very beneficial, with the energy and stuff, because that is going to be a huge issue for everybody, whether we know it or not, with the AI centers moving in.
it's motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Little, that we, pass an order allowing anyone who would like to participate in this, Rural Energy Academy Technical Assistance Program. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Supervisor, that concludes my briefing subject to your questions.
Anything else for our county administrator? If not, thank you. Tell you what, before we move into the next phase of the agenda, was a chancellor clerk was, okay.
I just got one.
Okay. Next we've got a chancellor clerk, Ms. Libby.
The only thing I have, and I hope you was able to look at your packet, is on the depository bid that we did. We are gonna go with Guarantee Bank, and they gave us what Wayne was talking about, is like a ladder rate. For year 1 and 2, they're gonna give us a fixed rate at 3.5%.
3.56.
Yeah, 3.56, I'm sorry. And the 3-year rate is gonna be at 3.35%, and then the 4-year rate will be at 3.11%. So we need a board order to approve Guarantee Bank.
Is that good to lock the funds in
Yes.
for a long period of time like that?
Yes, because the first 2 years we get the 3.56.
Mhm.
Then the 3rd year we're guaranteed the 3.35. And then the 4th year we're guaranteed the 3.11.
Yeah, kind of going down.
Yes, it's gonna go down a little bit, but that's the fixed rate, it won't.
In the current climate, I think we can expect interest rates to begin declining, and they're gonna decline over the next couple of years for certain. There's a lot of advantages to, so think about it like this, our depository account is our main account, we write all our checks out of it. If you can imagine trying to change your personal bank account every 1 or 2 years, that's a huge administrative lift. And being able to lock this thing in for 4 years at really good competitive interest rates is very valuable to us administratively. So that I think that's why I would put my endorsement with the Chancellor Clerk, and that I believe Guarantee Bank is the best. Also, Guarantee Bank is offering us a new product, something that's called an investment cash sweep. Am I saying that right? ICS, insured cash sweep account. And I want to make sure that y'all understand what that product is. It is approved by the Secretary of the Treasury at the state of Mississippi. It's a new product out to Hall County. I'm not certain how long it's been an approved strategy by the state of Mississippi, but I don't believe it's been very long. And with that said, what this thing does is it takes all the money that we have in our depository account, and they have a network of banks. And they take that money and they spread it out across all of these banks in sub-accounts. And they do that in such a way that they keep, and I can't remember what the current FDIC amount is. It used to be 250,000, but someone's telling me it may be a little bit more than that now, but I'm not sure. But let's just say it is 250,000. So they would spread out all of our money across a number of different accounts and a number of different banks at $250,000 per sub-account, and that would make certain that every dime we had is FDIC insured. Now, what that does is that allows the bank to give us higher returns on our account because they don't have to maintain the collateral. Because if you just use a regular old checking account, then the bank has to invest that money into collateralized investments up to 105%. That really limits what they can do with the money. So therefore, they can't give us a higher return. So this insured cash sweep is a new product for Oktibbeha County, and I just wanted to make certain that y'all understood.
The depository account, this agreement, is it based on an average balance? This not.
No, because there's an bid announces up and down, especially if we do the CD bid.
Okay.
Right, and so obviously we're gonna be taking any, how did they describe it? I don't wanna call them surplus funds, any idle funds, and we'd be moving them out to our investment, right, that y'all just approved, and keeping just the cash that we need in the depository account to operate over a set period of time.
Yeah, and I did notice that when we opened those bids and looked at them, like, I want to let your mind at ease, about the money on there. There was a couple of them that did bid out for the 4-year time, some of them did. But theirs at 4 years was like 1%.
So to give you an example, Cadence Bank only bid 1.75% for the 4-year term. And whereas Guaranteed put in at 3.11. Now, I don't know if the fact that they did the insured cash sweep is what giving them the confidence to do that. Bank first said, we'll bid on it, but only for 2 years because we don't want to risk what the interest rates are going to do 3 or 4 years out. And they also said, we don't want your surplus money or your idle money. They said, you keep that idle money away from us because we can't keep it all collateralized and it's plays havoc with our books. So they kind of didn't want our business. It was my take on it.
They don't want the idle, they can't afford to do the idle funds, they invest and take out of it. So, yeah, they can't do that.
And what I believe is gonna happen, this is what I think. One of the reasons I work so hard to try and open up our investment policy, right, to include insured cash sweep. What I believe is going to come down the road is you're going to see Guaranteed not offer a CD. They're going to offer an insured cash sweep account for the maximum amount of money that they can return that they can justify, and that helps. And if they do that, then you literally not locked in. So we can
cash accessible at all times.
For a CD, they're not. If we put it into a CD, then there's potentially a penalty for early withdrawal. But if they do the insured cash sweep, right, then you could move money, or we could be willing to take much more risk in how much cash we put into the investment, knowing that if we needed it, we could draw it back out.
So they'll now get a fold, get interest back in.
I'm sorry, Sharon, I didn't mean to.
Motion to adopt, Guaranteed Bank.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Little. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
And also, I forgot to say too, that y'all may be familiar with the positive tax that we had to do with Bank First. they offer that too, so we'll still keep the copy.
And I went over there to clarify so much of their bid. One of the things that I was able to clarify was the ladder bid and the waiving of almost all of their fees, whether it be for positive pay and different things that they provide for us.
Motion to recess for a 5-minute break. Second, by Supervisor Dillon, all in favor, motion passed.
You're waiting on positive pay, that's just done through.
Can we get a motion to resume our meeting? Motion by Supervisor Rainer, second by Supervisor Little, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. We're now back in session. Okay, we'll move down our agenda. Next on the agenda, we'll have our board attorney, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, board. We've already done the order to set aside, and I need to make certain I leave a copy of that. As y'all may remember, we did have an ethics complaint that was filed dealing with specifically, whenever we were doing the budget meeting, whether or not copies were supposed to be distributed to the general public. The answer is one copy should be available for the general public. One copy. I had to call the ethics department to make sure I understood this, because it was kind of crazy as thick as some of this stuff was. And he did say that one copy should be available. It didn't matter that it was available for 2 weeks before that, but the fact is that we just need to have one available copy that's here in the room, or everything we do can be put up on a screen. The third option was, frankly, what we've already done, which is put this on the website. So my position on this would be, I would like to have at least a copy available for the public in case somebody wants to look at everything, which is not a bad idea. We've done that in the past generally, but also continue putting it on the website. I did talk to the ethics to make certain that I understood exactly, because I was thinking if we had to make, if 20 folks showed up, it would be almost impossible to make certain we had plenty of copies for everybody. And he said, no, just one copy or on the internet. And I asked him, I said, how often do you have this situation pop up? And he said, everybody has this issue, so I don't want this to be blown out of proportion. He basically said that in the grand scheme of things, he said, y'all have gone over and above since you addressed this issue. And he said, just move on like you've done, put it on the website, and just have it page. Now, I do appreciate the fact that it was brought to our attention. One of the ideas that came from this was putting it on the website. So it was a positive thing in a nutshell. There's no penalty. There's nobody's gotten their hand popped or anything like that. We do have the option for us to appeal this. I don't want to appeal it. I think that we're doing what they've asked us to do. I think it's the right thing to do. So that's the explanation of the ethics complaint that was done. It will be finalized in 5 days. I think there'll be a letter sent out to the party that sent it out, and this will be finished and we'll move on.
Well, Attorney, I think this board does everything it can to operate as transparent as it possibly can. And we welcome any input from the citizen if they notice something that, they don't feel like the board is doing correctly, let us know.
And I think we've got a lot of good people out there that will frankly let us know.
I think so.
So I appreciate it. And honestly, something positive did come from this, was the ability for us to recognize that putting this on the website, frankly, it helps us all. I'm able to pull it up too off the website. So it's a good thing all the way around. The other things that I have will be handled in executive session. I will be discussing an issue with the county hospital dealing with how we are going to deal with the mammogram issues that we've got. There's a personnel issue that we need to discuss as well. Those are the two things that would need to be dealt with in executive session.
Need a motion to go in closed session to determine if we need to go into executive session. Motion by Supervisor Carl, second by Supervisor Little. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. We're now